Welcome to the Begin With Yes Show with your host, Paul Boynton.
Welcome to the Begin With Yes video adventure. We're beginning our second show right now. I invited Katie Benway Yerkes to come back and continue our conversation. And if you missed part one, we'll recap really quickly for you and then jump into some challenges that Kate's experiencing right now and sort of apply some of the Begin With Yes principles to those challenges in ways that will perhaps help Kate, but also help you think of your own life and the things that you're going through and how this conversation can benefit you as well. So welcome back, Kate. You didn't go very far, thank God. We're still wearing the same clothes. We did not do a wardrobe change. And Kate and I have been having a great time chatting, and in like two sentences, like just recap in case people did not see part one of the show about what's happened to you in the last few years.
Sure. So in the last 8 years, I left a very successful marketing career and track to start my own business as a psychic medium and life coach, which is a skill and a part of me that has always been there, but that I really didn't feel safe doing, quite frankly. So I got the courage up to begin with yes and take that first step, leave the safety of a traditional job and start this business.
Well, and Kate's sort of been a role model for me because I've seen her do this so successfully. And I think it's important for people to remember that sometimes these big life changes that we talk about, and sometimes that means leaving a relationship, moving to a new town, starting a new career, beginning to play the piano, writing a book. I mean, there's a million things. They don't always come easy, and sometimes they are scary, and sometimes it takes a lot of just sort of holding your breath and stepping out into the unknown and hoping that there will be somebody. And in my experience, there always has been something there to sort of carry you a bit until you land again on solid ground. So I don't want to minimize that, and I'm hoping, because Kate, I know you know that we have almost 2 million fans from literally around the world, which is what I'm excited about, because those people are going to have a chance to participate on this show thanks to technology and Skype, and in future shows we'll have people who'll be sitting where you are, but they'll be in Boise, Idaho, or Paris, France, or a whole bunch of wonderful places. But let's get to sort of a challenge that you're having right now. You've been successful, your business has grown, you've gotten through that initial major life transition, you're more comfortable with yourself, and now what's going on with your business that we could chat about for the next few minutes? So,
what's amazing to me is that you might master something or get through something, and then it comes up again. Oh, yeah. And so the Begin With Yes principles are like evergreen, right. And you just sort of revisit the base of the tree and sit down again.
That's very true.
Sit down, get quiet, think about it. So my business has grown tremendously organically over the course of the last 5 to 7 years. I'm booked out 10 months. I've done over 5,000 readings for over 1,000 people. I have clients all over the country. In the last 2 months, I've gotten inquiries from Europe. Wow.
Do they come here, amazing. Or can you do it?
Skype, distance technology, same kind of thing. It's amazing. Yeah, right. And so with that, one of the struggles I've been having is, so what do I do? So I'm not going to hire a bunch of psychics to work for me. Right. I'm me. I do my work. I'm a life coach. I help people. But I'm booked out 10 months. And so...
Is that a burden, in a way, to be so successful?
At times it feels it. At times I can feel, people want to come in. They want to process. They've heard good things. They know I can help them. And I'm one person. Right. And it's not my path to train someone to be me. It's me. And so that's what I've been thinking about, is how can I help more people so that folks aren't just relegated to a 10-month waiting list. And so I've, thought about writing, I've thought about speaking. But interestingly enough, up come some of my old fears when I think about putting myself out there in a new way.
Right.
So just as I was really afraid in 2009, 10 to leave marketing and this safe place and start Intrepid 11, I'm being asked, sort of by the universe, by people, to go out and speak more and reach others in different ways. And there's, fear about that, fear of rejection, fear of putting myself out there, fear of what if I destabilize the base of my business.
Do you ever hear that voice that says, are you getting too big for your own britches?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And that voice says that. And then I look at the 10-month waiting list and I think, but something has to grow, right?
Exactly.
Either give or grow. But I choose to look at it as something's got to grow.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just mentioned that because I talk to so many people who begin to sort of be successful, and then they start hearing those voices. They're pulling them back. And who do you think you are? And do you really think you should be doing this? Or do you have a right to do this? Or do you have a right to be happy?
Right.
And sometimes people get out the door, but they're not on the sidewalk yet, and they pull back in and shut the door. And so I just wanted to mention that. So I think sometimes it helps if you know that some of those feelings are just natural, normal feelings that everyone has.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to just say, oh, that's the voice in my head that's going to try to talk me into going back into the house, and I'm just not going to listen to it. And I knew it was coming, and I knew I would hear it. So
right, and it's great you said that, because that is one of my biggest struggles, and I work on it and I come at it in different ways. But this, who are you, and what gives you the right to help people heal themselves?
Right.
When I'm not in my congruent place, so when I'm with a client, I'm really clear about why I'm supposed to do that work. But when I'm far away and outside of it, or more entrenched sort of in our world that values what it values, I can really, that voice can really catch up with me. And so I think for me, taking the necessary steps in terms of business or putting myself out there and creating content is really more of that inner struggle of managing that voice of who do you think you are.
And the other thing I was curious about with you, because I know it's something that lots of people are challenged with, is people often say, well, I'm not an optimistic person. I look at the glass and it's half empty. And I say, we can't let that stop you. And the Begin With Yes actually works with people whether the glass is half full or the glass is half empty, because the emphasis isn't on what is your attitude. The emphasis is on doing something. And can you speak to that in any way? It's sort of like, how do you get out of bed and do something that you don't feel like doing, or you don't have the confidence to do, or you've got all those voices playing in your head?
It's interesting. You and I had a conversation a number of years ago, and I don't know that you remember it, which I wouldn't expect you to, but I was creating Intrepid 11, and you really encouraged me, a nod to the previous conversation we just had about this sense of coming out, right? When you come out to share a truth about yourself that you couldn't change if you tried, people might reject you. And so last summer, I knew I was being guided to speak and talk and teach. Really, I would say teach. And I couldn't get out of my own way. I really couldn't. I was pretty paralyzed with fear. And so I booked it. I just booked it.
Right.
And it was May. I booked the room. I had the space. I picked the date. I picked the time. I picked the topic. I put it on Eventbrite. I hit send. A bunch of people signed up, and I went, oh my God, what have I done?
Right.
But you know what? I came into it. It was out there. It was really important. I knew I needed to get out of my own way. And frankly, it shifted my place of stewing about rejection and moved me into, well, I'd better start coming up with my talk. Right. And when I'm in that place, I'm really good.
Right. When you are actually doing something, people often talk to me about feeling stuck, and I just say, then do something. And if you don't know what to do, then bake a cake, or, dance in the living room, or get moving, because once you're moving, you can't be stuck and moving at the same time. And once you start moving, especially moving in a focused way, then you begin to, all of a sudden, your confidence begins to creep back in, begin to feel a little bit better. Yeah. And surprisingly, people who tend to be more negative suddenly find themselves feeling more positive. But if they had waited for the positive feeling to get moving, they might never have gotten moving.
Yeah, if I had waited for the fear of rejection to lift, I'd still be waiting.
And, you know, I think there's another thing that, and I think we do have time to talk about it a little bit, is that not every time up to bat is a home run. It's, and I had the same, and still do have some stuff, some energy around speaking in public. And there have been times when I put myself in that position, and you know what? If I were to grade myself on how I did that day, it would be a C+ or a B-. So it wasn't, you know, what I had hoped it would be on that time out. But if I had stopped at that point and said, I'm going to stop now because I didn't get an A+ or an A, then you're really you're not being realistic about what's possible. Most of us cannot become great public speakers just because we want to.
Right.
It takes practice, right?
Yeah.
And you have to have some experiences that aren't you're doing the best that you can in the moment, but you're not doing as well as you would like to do. And I think we have to give ourselves permission not to hit a home run every time we get out up to bat, right?
Absolutely. One of the things with Begin With Yes and the focus on action is, I think when you are engaged in action, stuff will happen. Stuff will get triggered in you, but you're forced to love yourself through it. And I think that that's inherently healing. Yeah. When I said, I'm going to just book it, I'm just booking it. I'm currently terrified and I'm booking it. There were a lot of things that I could say about that first time out that most people didn't see, criticisms of myself. But really what I realized after the fact was I loved myself through the action. And the step of that taking the action brought me to a new place, generated more awareness. It certainly was not as bad as I ever feared it could be. And I had new respect and love for myself.
Right, because you actually did it.
I did it. I did it.
Right.
Yes.
And no matter how it went, you did it. And it's like, if we're expecting not to be afraid and we want to do new things, then it's not going to happen. At least for most people.
Right.
So being afraid is just sort of part of the deal. It goes with the territory. It's like we're not going to step out into the unknown and not be anxious or nervous or scared or really scared.
Yeah.
It's the not letting it stop us.
Right.
And I doubt that there's anybody that's really achieved great things or wonderful things or created the lives that they wanted that they haven't had to walk through fear. And you don't walk through it once.
Right. It's a spiral path.
Right. It's not a one-time deal. Yeah. Okay, I've conquered that. It's just sort of like a companion. And I've begun to, one of the things that really worked well for me is I used to think I was anxious about doing things. And then I realized that excitement and anxiety feel a lot alike. You got butterflies in your stomach, and you're not sure what's going to happen. And it's sort of like being on a roller coaster, if you like roller coasters, and you never feel completely good when you're going up the hill, knowing that the big drop is about to come. And so sometimes what we label as fear is actually, or anxiety, is actually excitement.
Yes.
And that's helped me a lot.
Absolutely,
as well.
To not judge it. One of the nice things about your message and your book and you, and I know that I've looked back on our friendship and our conversations and your influence in my life, sometimes the value of someone and a message giving you permission is more than you realize. So, when I get in my loop about fear and rejection, I might look at your book, or I might look at what you've written on your blog, or I might look at something you've posted on social media and say, right now, today, I have permission from Paul to take a step. And sometimes I need that.
Right.
And it's really helpful.
You know why I'm laughing is because a lot of times what I'm writing is what I need to hear.
Yes.
So it's like I'm not the master of Begin With Yes. I'm a participant with everybody else. And so sometimes you read what I put put up on my Facebook page, and you can know secretly and smile to yourself that that's what Paul's thinking about for himself right now. So it's like, what I find wonderful too is the shared journey, and we just have another minute or two, but do you find like the more you sort of get into this journey that you're finding other people sort of being with you or helping you or encouraging you, or, I mean, do you feel any sense of like something, I want to say the word magical, is happening?
Yeah, you can say magical
All
with
right.
me. That's my language.
Okay.
I will say I've come to really say this and believe this. The more I move through my own fear, take the next safe, right step, safe as in not dangerous.
Right.
The more I step into my own truth, the more I experience what feels like reward. So if I didn't know better, I would say, oh, the universe paid me off. That's not true. But what's happening is I am moving through fear and I am becoming a more conscious human being. And when I become more conscious, I'm attracting people of a like vibration who see me, who honor me, who lend a hand. And so in taking these steps and sometimes forcing myself to take a step, I have at times unwittingly changed my vibration and shifted my course, and thereby attracted people who fill in the missing piece of the puzzle or provide some kind of contribution or insight that is profound and life-changing. And so you begin to sort of get what you give. Right. And there may be a couple of those first steps where you're like, I didn't get that reward yet. But man, it comes. Right. It really does come. And it changes your life.
Before we close, and we're about to close, first tell people, and then I'm going to put you on the spot with a question, but first tell people where to find you on the web.
Sure. I'm Intrepid 11. Okay. 11 is spelled out, so intrepid11.com. Okay. I'm on Twitter and Facebook as well.
All right. I think you should have your own TV show, but we'll talk about that offline.
Yeah.
But here's the putting you on the spot question. When you walk out of here today and you drive home, and I'm just curious, what next step are you thinking you're ready for? Or maybe not quite ready, but about to do anyways?
So what's really interesting about you inviting me to be on the show is that for the last 5 weeks, I have been in a tough little internal place about the next steps in terms of putting myself out in the world, being who I am, sharing my message, casting aside that fear of rejection and fear of judgment. And here you are inviting me to be on your show. And I said yes, right? Managed the fear and showed up. I cannot control who will watch this. I cannot control who will judge me or reject me. But in this moment, you love me and I love me.
That's right.
And so when I leave here, this was a message from the universe. To say yes and to do more and keep saying yes. And so I will accept that momentum and accept my part in it.
Awesome. Hey, if you do have your own TV show, can I be a guest?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Kate.
You're so welcome. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for being with Kate and I on the Begin With Yes live and pre-recorded for later. If you missed it live, Begin With Yes journey. And I hope before you go to bed tonight, even if you're already in bed waiting to turn the light up, think of one small step you can take to move closer to what you want to see happen in your life. And I hope you'll take it before you turn the light out. Take care, and we'll see you next time.